All
Hi,
right.
everybody.
Welcome, Purple Moomers. This is Fluffy here. Is Purple Moomers good? I think we did agree on Moosey Moosey. So
That
I
was a bit cheeky, but honestly, like whatever word in there outside of the, feel free to go with. Purple, bull moose, whatever you want to go with.
all right. Well, let's go with Moose then. So yeah, this is turn 110. Managed to make it a decent go of this game. It's had some ups and downs certainly. How did you find the rejuvenation map script for a start? It's quite extreme, starting with no
It's definitely
resources.
it's definitely quite extreme, but I thought it was a super fun and interesting challenge. Like after I had picked and done everything, one, I think the order is actually maybe an underrated start for the rejuvenation map. Being able to spend legitimacy when you have no other resources is a nice resource to be able to spend.
Yeah, that
So
certainly helps. Yeah, because of course, as Egypt, I had the advantage of starting with 400 stone, so that tided me through the early game a little bit, whereas you didn't have that leverage. So I'm sure that made things a bit harder.
I definitely made things a little bit harder, but if I could do it all over again, I think I would have started with a hunter's start, or maybe at least a hunter second city. I think I ended up going with two cleric cities right there with the capital, and then the the current Scythian city directly to its north as my second cleric founded city. And I did that because I kind of wanted to make use of the fact that I had access to monasteries super early game, farm the scruff that I could find, and get that early science down, which did serve me well. But if I could do it all over again, I would have gone Second City Hunters. So that way I could have abused the Hunt City project to fast expand.
Yeah, for sure. The I didn't even think about it this game because obviously I didn't have hunters, but yeah, that would have been super useful getting in food because food. It looks like you struggled all game. Obviously, I struggled early game with food, but managed to ramp up my food income. I'm on 380 a turn now, so that's ramping my entire economy. Is my food
Oh, yeah.
income. I've
I mean,
got
I was actually very curious about your strategy around that because I almost forewent food. I figured I'm going to get enough food to feed my army to just be able to handle the maintenance and not worry about anything else. And I used either events or spamming out the hunt project to get my 100 food for each settler. So that's kind of what my third hunter's city became,
right.
just a food generator for me.
Yeah, I don't even. Well, actually, I tell you what did help. I had a an event that gave me a steward of the land. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
I
it's
am.
from Behind the Throne. It gives you a bunch of benefits and some malices, but one of the benefits it gives you is 100% food output in the city that they're governing, which is obviously insane when food gets as expensive as it does. I think it was up to about 12 at one point. In fact, we could even see on the stats. Let's look at. Is it food? It's not food production. It's resource prices I'm talking about. Yeah, so it topped out 11.2, and yeah, it
Jesus.
only came down because I was selling huge amounts of it. But yeah, you were in a deficit. I think quite a lot of the time, weren't you? Or at least not very high on food production.
Yeah, again, it was never really a priority. I just wanted to make sure I had enough to feed everybody, and that's kind of what I parsed it around. I found it very interesting because I wondered if when your food production was going, if it was majority like goats and fish that spawned as resources coming back in rejuvenation, or did you just commit to like arid and temperate farms?
It's all farms. Yeah, just looking at my top food producing city there, 100 from farms, 17 and a half from farmers. That's it.
Okay.
And then Iuni was, yeah, also just farms.
All right. Well, that's less ridiculous than the carnivorous horses I was imagining that you were pumping out.
I mean, of course, I had the other bonus of Egypt is that they get extra output from farms on rivers, so definitely made very good use of that.
I mean, it certainly is thematic that Egypt does thrive in a desert setting. So it's definitely a very super cool map. All in all, really enjoyed Rejuvenation.
Yeah, I thought it worked really well. I wasn't sure at the start how well it was going to work. If it was going to be a bit too extreme, wouldn't work for duel. But I think it was quite fun. The thing I struggled with a little bit was managing to keep on top of when resources spawned. Obviously, you get the notifications at the start of the turn, but I wasn't always 100% on top of actually looking to see where all the resources were, and so then it was a little bit of a surprise 5 turns later, and oh, I need to do something with that. But
Oh, my screen went black for a little bit. Hold on. There we go. I'm back.
okie dokie, yeah, I'm just having a look at the map. But yeah, I don't know if you struggled at all with seeing when resources appeared, but certainly something that you need to pay attention to, or it helps if you pay a lot of attention to when resources are coming up on the map.
Yeah, I mean, when my scouting was limited, it was a lot easier. But as I got more of a view into your territory, I'm like, okay, so that stone could be anywhere on the map. But when it was like more localized, I found it pretty easy to keep identifying where the stuff was going to end up.
Yeah, it's funny at the start of the game when it's all desert and every single tile conversion is so relevant. It's like, oh, I've got my first scrub. I can cut some wood. It's so exciting. So I think it's cool. It's definitely a different way of playing. So yeah, this early game was dominated by the Orator. Of course, you hired a lot of mercenaries, right? I think it was something like 15 mercenaries in the end. You got. Let's just have a look
I
at the
did.
stat there. Mercenary tribe units, yeah, 15. How much legitimacy did you spend on that? That must have taken quite a bite out of your
It definitely
total.
did. It definitely did, but I was definitely not hurting for orders any part of the time. I was able to use everybody pretty effectively, and my only qualm with how much I spent is that I wish I spent it more in the north than in the south. I just happened to go south first to expand into Gaul territory. If I had gone north and I expanded into Scythian territory, I would have had more cavalry to help me in the fight against the middle of the map against all of your damn onagers and forts. But
Well, there was certainly quite. There certainly felt like you had a lot of mercenaries there. I mean, there it was a little bit scary when I first saw your troops all piled up in Assamouth and thinking, oh, okay, it looks like he's massing there. I've got to prepare for that. As you know, all those 6 strength mercenaries hanging around was certainly a worry. But yeah,
yeah, well,
it's
you dug in strength well. You definitely dug in strength well. But I'm curious. Let's check the legitimacy uh,
sure.
bar graph for like the early game and compare that to military strength and territory owned because I really use my legitimacy mostly just to claim more and more city sites.
Yeah, so you can see I take a fairly early lead and stay ahead all game. Um,
Yeah,
I hired 5 mercenaries, and I think I can't see exactly what yours is, but mine is where is hiring mercs in here? Is it not on here? Oh, there we go. Separate listed separately. I spent 9 total legitimacy on mercenaries, so
oh,
not too
interesting.
much. And yeah, if we look at the military power, yes, you certainly managed to leverage that into a big military power advantage. You were stronger than me, well, right up until, well, in fact, you were stronger than me until turn 100 is when we crossed the threshold. Otherwise, you spent the entire game with more military than me.
Yeah, as soon as I was outclassed on on the units and unable to find a answer to the H strength lancers that you're coming out with, because again,
Yeah,
I
that's
kind
pretty
of
mean.
discounted that as an option because I didn't think you would be able to commit that much to the food necessary to sustain an army like that.
Hmm. Yes, the food certainly wasn't a problem. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting because your army was pretty much macemen, mercenaries, and a few onagers, right? Then you ended up
Yes.
with a couple of archers and conscript. I was slightly worried in the end. Conscript could have done some reasonable damage to the lancers. Obviously, they're not really strong enough. But I mean, of course, another thing you were struggling with was family opinion. Um,
Oh yes, it was a death spiral there in the end.
yeah.
Um, I got stabbed in the back by my friendly level piece with the Scythians, and a forced war event just brought down holy hell upon me. So between you expanding and getting that nice huge route in the south of your sites over
Oh
by the
yeah,
Vandals,
that was the turn. I did
That was
enjoy that.
devastating. I think I lost like 7 units in that excursion.
Yeah,
So
sounds about
between
right.
that and the raids from the north, I had to just full retreat. I'm like, between the makeup of his armies, the makeup of mine, and the terrain that we're fighting in, there was no chance that I was going to be able to sustain. So I had to just tactically retreat as I could, which I always find interesting. When you're tactically retreating from Cav, you have to, instead of holding your line and retreating slowly like you would do historically, you have to sparse your units out and have everybody spaced out accordingly. Otherwise, you leave yourself open for a route, which is so funny because it's like the opposite in like real life tactics. But I found that a very interesting challenge to tactically retreat.
Right, yeah, it's definitely it's. I mean, retreating in old world is often not easy at the best of times, but yeah, if you're having to space them out as well, I can imagine that makes it a lot more difficult. But yeah, I mean, we could talk through the conflict as it happened, I guess. So the flow of the game, we both obviously expanded out. I grabbed the middle early. I never went south, so I never explored this territory down in the bottom of the map here. It was all wow. There's a lot of vandals down there.
So
Yeah,
many. I was wondering. So, and you never had peace with them. You were at war with them pretty much the entirety of the game until the end.
I had
So
I
how
had
much trouble did they give you?
I had peace with them for a little while because I was planning on an alliance because I got a diplomat leader
Oh, okay.
a reasonable way into the game, and I had peace with the Vandals and peace with the Numidians who are in the centre here. And I was hoping to get an alliance with one of them, preferably with the Numidians, because that would have been very
Mm,
helpful. But yeah, I had a forced war event where I had to go to war with one of the two, which was really irritating. And then yeah, just got another forced war event later, and that was okay. Well, that's my alliance plans up in tatters. Yeah, I did have some raids. I had some fairly brutal raids, like turn 40, turn 50. Nearly lost Necken, the centre city there, to raids. I think possibly more through luck than skill. I managed to hold on to that, and yeah, it was a little bit brutal.
yeah, I got a chance
Definitely,
to watch the Scythians give you some trouble.
yep. Yeah, and of course, yes, the Scythians joined in on your attack, which was unpleasant for sure. But yeah, the little excursion down to the south of Taramu, was that were you planning on trying to pinch your way into a joint attack on the city there?
Yeah, that was the game plan to hold the high ground there because I saw that you had the Onager line. I had the scout right there next to the
Right, yeah, I see
Sembian
him.
Mountains,
Yeah.
and I've had him either there or on the other side of that territory in that middle section with the hills, that little blank inside of your nation to the west
Hmm.
of Nipi.
Okay, yeah.
So in that little forest over to the west, and I kind of skirted back in between those two spots to just get a general idea of what your defenses were. And I figured if I went through that choke point with the amount of melee that I had, I wouldn't have enough action economy to be able to do sufficient enough damage to crush in. So I needed to open up two fronts. But you beating me to the punch and having the perfect makeup to be able to just take those guys out was pretty devastating.
Yeah, I think I mean I agree it would have been difficult to push in directly from Nakan to Teramu. Yeah, just because the onagers would have made life hard. And yeah, this force down here, I mean it's a nice idea, but yeah, well, if you're going to leave your army exposed like that without possibility of backup, then yeah, they are begging to be picked off at that point.
Mm. How so when you saw them, like how they were there for maybe two turns
Oh right,
before they were wiped out. Um
I think
how did you see them the entire time or
no, I think I only saw them the turn that I decided to attack them. But yeah, I
oh.
saw them and I thought no, not having that. Fortunately, I had enough people in position, to deal with it. But yeah, that was. I think I had mounted lancers by that point, and I was rushing them out. So I had two or three of them plus a couple of horses, and yeah, it's as you say, it was the good mix. Those macemen are quite good units, but they're mainly good against infantry, which I didn't really have a lot of. And
My early scouting, when you were still in nothing but idiots, I figured it was the perfect mix. But when you brought out the first chariot and then the second chariot and then the third chariot. I'm like, where the hell is he getting all this food? Lo and behold, turns out you invested quite wisely in it.
Yep, yep. Heavy food economy. Yeah, it's interesting. Did you have because you presumably you had access to spears? You did,
Yes,
yes,
you
certainly at
need
the
access
end.
to spears, even with the jumbled up map. It is still a prerequisite for battle line.
Of course, of course. But yeah, if you'd had a few spears in the mix, that would have made life a lot harder for my cavalry. If only for route protection, but also for doing extra damage.
I thought of that, but the only thing that kind of gave me pause was the amount of wood necessary, and I didn't have really with the necessity to route, um, with the necessity to retreat. I didn't really have the action economy necessary to be able to take care of that. So yeah, you got wood production up early, but I feel like that comes down to where you had your starting techs with the new tree. If you want to take a look over at the tech tree,
Yes, let's
we were
have a
led
look.
we were led by necessity down very different paths. So you started with what? Divination, labor force, and ironworking?
I started with stone cutting, ironworking, and
Labor
labour
force, I
force.
think, for
Yep,
Egypt.
yep, 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 yep. You can
So
see
you're
they've got the years on them now. Just a nice
so you
little
were
bonus.
propelled, especially with access to a cleric family, giving you monasticism. Um, you were propelled down that particular line, which I think leads you to
Yeah,
your horsemen later on.
yeah. I was going to say you've definitely got forestry down here, and then yeah, stirrups are down here as well. So yeah,
So
yeah, that definitely
So you were
makes a
propelled towards
difference.
forestry, propelled towards culture, propelled towards horsemen, having already that much invested. Whereas I had a much different early game setup. If you go back to the beginning, I start with what? Hunt, trapping, um, mill drill, and administration, I believe. So
Right.
so I had the very fast beeline to get up over to Axeman, to get over to Maceman, with very little detours necessary. And husbandry being one of the few food sources available to me, it was just a natural pickup to go there into phalanx.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
definitely a different route.
I mean, I guess you could have picked up spoke to ill as well. It's just a husbandry there.
Yeah, but again, it was the food investment. Didn't think it was I didn't think it was wise. There didn't seem to be enough adjacency necessary for it that to really make it worth going out and farming the wood for it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean
Definitely something to consider.
it makes sense. You've definitely got to play the map, which is difficult in rejuvenation when you don't know what you're going to get. But I guess iron and hills are the one thing you can rely on fairly well to be available. So yeah, you may took good
So
advantage
I
of
leaned
that.
into full
I'm
iron,
guessing you had pretty good iron production. It's kind of
able to get out a
middling all
new
game.
maceman every turn.
Very nice. Yeah, that was my aim to be able to afford a mounted lancer very regularly, which I didn't never quite got there on wood, but it was good enough. Yeah, both wood and food got very expensive as well. I don't think wood's never quite hit the heights that food did, but yeah, overtook at the end.
Definitely approached it.
Yeah, yeah, not having forestry is a problem this late in the game, I would guess. Because you obviously needed some for your onagers and for your archers, so that must have been a struggle. I don't know if you can see this. My money rate minus 628 here. I
Oh wow.
I don't know. I have never got the hang of actually producing money in old world. I never have enough. And it always amazes me when people like scientific say, "Oh, there's just so much money in old world. You know, how much money do we need?" It's like I always need money. I never have enough money. But
That's so funny. I never find myself in need of cash, but I'm taking a look. I mean, quite frankly, if you're trading off in your strategy between income generation and all the other things that you excel at, that is really where my question becomes. I mean, you take a look into a lot of your resource generation around turn 40 onwards, between 40 and 65. It explodes. So, taking a look, for instance, legitimacy explodes at turn 40, I believe, to a certain amount. Um,
What's the legitimacy
and
graph?
science at turn 55 has a huge pickup.
Yeah, I go from 78 to 124 in 4 turns, which is quite a big. That must be cognomens. I imagine I finished a couple of ambitions and probably went up in cognomen. That must be the quick rise there.
I can always check the timeline to see what comes
Yeah,
up of it.
let's have a look. Have a quick look then. So scroll backwards. So turn 40, we adopted polytheism. Founded city, yeah. Completed ambition for 6 mines. Completed ambition for 5 specialists. So yeah, 2 ambitions in those
Yeah, that'll do
turns.
it.
Yeah, must have got a good compliment out of that, and yeah, just jumped up. And yeah,
So to
science.
everybody
I would.
watching, make sure you do your ambitions, even if it's not an ambition victory.
Yeah, ambitions are always important. Yeah, like in duels, you're probably not going to win off an ambition, but legitimacy is quite valuable. As
The next one that comes up for a question back on the timeline is I'd love to see around turn 55. Taking
Okay.
a peek over at your science production. Because
I imagine the boost there is going to be monasteries. I probably had started to get monasteries up by that point, which is obviously valuable for clerics. I think that's where quite a lot of my science was coming from, plus the urban
uh,
specialists.
also constitution and sovereignty. So yeah, so
Right, yeah,
sovereignty leads into
sovereignty was
constitution.
good. And I at some point adopted dualism as well. That was giving me quite a lot of science. I think that's recorded on here. I can't remember.
That would definitely be if you adopted it, but it might become after, unless you think it's that early.
I have absolutely no idea when I adopted it. Doesn't look like it, does it? Go in. So yeah, founded Christianity on 52. I guess we probably got some Christian monasteries up shortly after that as well. Would have helped. Court Scholar.
Oh, court scholar probably helps as well. Never hurts to get somebody who might be intelligent. And then you
Yeah, it's
really
hard to say.
took off on food and culture around turn 61, 63, and then your orders exploded turn 65.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I suspect the jump in food is going to be the steward of the land because that does make a huge difference. And of course, the thing with steward of the land is you can impart that stewardship to other people. So I spread that to another governor, and then when the original governor died, that guy spread it to a new person. And yeah, it's 100% food output is nothing to sniff at for sure.
Certainly not. I guess definitely something I got to take into consideration because I'm over here banking on the fact that you can't produce food as part of why I am investing as heavily into Maceman as I was. So I should a point for everybody else watching to keep an eye on your enemy's leader. Um, so in case you see something interesting that might change your overall perspective on what to expect.
Yeah, you've got to know what your enemy is capable of. I don't think I did an amazing job of scouting this game. I had, like I said, my first real inkling of what you were doing was seeing the grouping of people at Asimov, which was probably 5 or so, maybe 5 or 10 turns before you came and attacked. So I had a good bit of time to prepare, which is when I started building forts here. But I did, yeah. I never got portcullis, so I never got spies in your cities. Never really had a good idea of what you were up to. Did you grab portcullis?
No, not even at the end, I don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah, no spy master. So you didn't grab it either. Actually, I was wondering if maybe that was where your science came from. But it looks like it was a spyless game.
yeah. Now we can do a breakdown of the science. So we're set is yeah, a couple of monasteries. The museum finished on the last turn, so you can discount that. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of specialists and constitution, and yeah, dualism. I think was getting me 16 in total. Science, so that was definitely worth having. Yeah, 16.5. Because of course I had the two world religions plus the paganism, and Judaism was in all my cities. So that's
Oh yeah.
basically every city's religion was counting for that. I do like dualism for tech. You can get more out of the one that gives you science per temple, but you do need to get the temples up, which is can take a fair bit longer. I prefer to get dualism up and running first,
Yeah, it's very rare that I go. What is it? Gnosticism.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Um, it's very rare that I go Gnosticism, unless I'm getting Yaz and I'm getting the temples for free. Or what is it? If it's not Yaz, what's like the wonder that gives you temples in every city that
Oh,
has access
the
to a.
Jebel Bakal.
Yes, if I'm able to get my hands on that, then Gnosticism becomes a lot more enticing. But
Hmm.
outside of that, I feel like maybe Gnosticism deserves a little bit of a boost. Maybe not a lot, but it takes a lot of investment for it to even come close to where dualism is able to get you naturally.
Yeah, it does take a lot of investment. It is absolutely amazing if you do invest in it. I mean, if you have a lot of urban specialists and temples, then yeah, you can get some crazy outputs from it. But yeah. So yes, you beat me to Zoroastrianism by one turn. You said you sacrificed quite a lot for it. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was just a lot of civics investment. I was thinking to myself, how much have I actually invested in this? And I saw that you already had, I mean, you're playing Egypt, so you already have access to labor force. So if I lost out on Zoro, I was certainly going to lose out on Judaism because it wasn't a tech that I was planning on going for at all. And then I would still need to get, find wherever the resources show up if I'm graced with the resources. So I sucked it up and just committed a whole bunch of my early game civics that I really wanted to use elsewhere, to just ensure that I would get at least one of the um, early game religions. And it was painful. There was a lot of other plans I had for those civics early on, but because I think I left quite a few laws unpicked up for a long time, kind of due to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was vexing to lose access to that, but actually, to be honest, it didn't really hurt. Getting Judaism was only 7 years later, and then yeah, that worked perfectly well.
Yeah, but if
And
if you had gotten both, dear Lord.
yeah, it's definitely a danger letting your opponent get all the religions in a duel when they've got clerics. Which of course is going to change in the new patch. Now clerics don't get found religion anymore and do get
Oh, which is
access
actually
to.
great that I have you here for that. What was the thinking behind that change?
So it actually came about as some of quite a few of our recent changes. Well, a lot of our changes come from player feedback. Right? So people are talking constantly on the Discord and discussing strategies and issues. But also we have been playing some internal games at Mohawk, and a lot of things come out of there, particularly multiplayer focused things. And one of them is that when you have an 8 player game, so like we've got a four versus four team game, and you've got 4 clerics nations in the game, then it's quite likely that at least one of those clerics nations is not going to get to use their found religion project
Mm.
because there's only 4 religions. So and that kind of sucks losing access to that. And then if you lose access to that and you can't naturally get a religion spread, then you can't use your religion bonuses. So it was just a little bit unsatisfying in some circumstances. And the idea was to make it so that while clerics can't necessarily get an early, easy access to founding religion, they can always at least get access to a religion and make use of those bonuses, even if they have to wait a little bit to for it to come online.
From the
So
perspective of the grand multiplayer game, I mean that makes perfect sense. Otherwise, it would be completely unbalanced. Um, as a primarily solo game player, I do find it I am a little bit nerve wracked about as someone who doesn't typically invest heavily in my strategies for early game wonders. Um, it is very difficult to get your hands on Christianity when I believe you need to own a Christian city or own a Jewish city.
yeah, so one of the founding requirements for Judaism for Christianity is having a Jewish city. Yes. So again, that is where there's another change that is coming to the next main patch where we have removed the spread limit for religions. So what you should find is that the early religions actually spread a lot further and faster naturally than they would before. So it should make it easier to found the later ones when you have more natural spread. That's the thought anyway. That's what we're aiming for there.
Okay. Um, especially when you have a game like we had for the multiplayer brawl, against playing against you, Scion, and Alcaraz. Um, all three of you grabbed religions incredibly early.
Hmm.
Um, I think Alcaraz was able to get his hands on Christianity by utilizing his found religion project, and then being the only person in the game with a cleric's family was awarded Manny afterwards. So that's how he got his hands on two religions before really anybody else had a chance. Um, so take out the found religion project, then whoever got Judaism is almost guaranteed to get access to Christianity.
Well, this is interesting because I'm not sure that's quite the case because you've also got the tech requirement of metaphysics in order to found Christianity. So
True, true.
while you need Judaism, it's not a necessary. It's not enough. You have to have the tech for it as well. So and to be honest, it's not often a desirable tech, at least in duels anyway. To go straight for that, so you have to really care about founding the religion in order to be doing that. Um, and this is another reason why we got rid of the found religion project is that it was just bypassing those founding requirements. And we definitely wanted it to be more religions getting founded naturally by those requirements and actually people putting effort into doing it rather than
Mm.
just spam a found religion project and then if you can get Christianity via found religion you just get money immediately as well and it should spread it out a bit more. That's the aim at least, but we will have to see where that falls.
Well, at the very least, I have to always commend the team over at Mohawk for how much you guys are putting into just keeping this game consistently updated. It's nice to see the community constantly be growing, more content creators putting out more content. Shout out obviously to Scion, who has been taking care of the lion's share of the most recent posts, and Alcaraz, who's been putting out some excellent educational content. But it's very, very nice to see just how much our little corner of the internet is shaping up.
Yeah, excellent indeed. It's great that Oldwood's been getting some more exposure recently. We've had a lot of new players, a lot of new content creators, and things are looking good at the moment. We're definitely happy to keep supporting it, keep working on DLC and free patches, and trying to keep the game balanced and everyone enjoying it.
And I take it you can't let anything slip about anything that might be coming in the pipeline.
I am afraid not. I can tell you we are working on new DLC, but that is as much as you are getting.
Hey, well, I will certainly take that. Obviously, love how much the game is being updated. Super excited to anything else you guys are willing to put out. So, thank you as always. And the game was so much fun. Rejuvenation is a very interesting map. I will be playing more of it.
Yeah, no, it was a blast. Thank you for playing. I'll definitely be happy to do another one at some point. But anything else game wise you wanted to talk about? I was quite interested in the military units. Yeah, 26 macemen you built and 11 axemen, which presumably got mostly upgraded to maces as well. That's very heavy compared to my military units. I think. I mean, I guess had a
I
bit
mean,
more of a
my
split.
lord, again, it was me being taken completely off guard um, by your makeup because you produced the two units I expected you not to produce, um, which goes a long way. Um, because I thought I'm like, okay, so wood's gonna be scarce, food's gonna be scarce. So if he ends up going slingers and swordsmen with stone and iron, then this will be a cakewalk if I just lean all into anti-infantry. And lo and behold, what I was met with was nothing but wood and food units.
Yeah,
So definitely a crude surprise. I guess I out big brained myself on that one. Thought a little bit too much into what to expect, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching your playthrough to see exactly when the decisions to build farms came up because that is very interesting to me.
yeah. I mean, it's I'm also very eager to see your side of it. I'm sure it'll be fascinating. It's I mean, to some extent, of course, you're dependent on forest spawns. I think I was reasonably lucky with forest spawning in my territory. I had quite a few river forests, which obviously always help. But yeah, lumber mills seemed like it would be a good idea to get online, because we're definitely going to need some wood in the game, and yeah, with the relative scarcity of wood, then it seemed like it was going to get expensive.
I'm definitely going to keep an eye on my game as we go back over it, see where I could have invested in wood. But it was a far way off of any text I was really pursuing, just because I was leaning so heavily into Maceman. That was the idea. If this is a unit upgrade that I can get my hands on, and I can do it without any worrying about potential RNG. I know I can get iron. I know I have all these hills. I know I can get axemen out first and foremost and get them somewhat trained up, and I can hire a whole bunch of these other units to get a little bit of my range, to get a little bit of my cav. I can round out with a couple of siege, and that should be enough to crack a city. And it was, but the amount that I bled for it was it was simply too
Yes.
much to bear for
Yeah.
an extended campaign.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I guess in the sum of the game, we can probably conclude it wasn't worth taking those central cities, but I guess someone had to attack at some point. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean just to make the game fun. That's the best part about doing duels like this. Getting to slam your armies into each other is certainly part of the fun.
I. Do you want to do you want to talk about heroes for a bit? You
Sure.
you make good use of offensives in the centre there. I managed to get one offensive off right at the end there, which was again I completely forgot about the change and did it wrong and had to undo it and go right. No, I can't attack with my hero. Yeah, okay, fine. But yeah, you found it frustrating. I take it.
I did find it frustrating, and that is only due to the fact of how much I had fallen in love with it early on in the game. And
Hmm.
it's been a staple for
Yes.
Warfare for 5 years now. The game's been
Yes.
out,
It's.
so
I mean, I'm frankly amazed it lasted as long as it did in that form because it's always been bastardly overpowered launch offensives,
yes, yes.
and it has been great fun, absolutely demolishing people in multiplayer games with it. I won't lie, but yeah, I think it's better for the balance of the game now if perhaps a little bit less fun to use.
Yeah, so I am frustrated with it. I still think it could use a little bit of fine tuning. So before we go ahead and comment on it, let's make sure that I understand it fully. It's the same as it was before for all adjacent units, giving them a refresh on all of their attacks. But what it detracts from is not only one attack, but two attacks from your leader, presumably. So that's the part where it aligns most with my frustration. Um, it is the damage that you are foregoing on typically your most powerful general. It is unlikely that any of your other generals are going to be as powerful as your hero leader, who has a base of 3 courage, and that is likely not where you end up on. So it is the loss of damage and the loss of experience that you can get from 2 kills in a turn if you're using your hero effectively. So that is the part that I do find a little and not intuitive for the
Yeah,
hero
it
archetype
is.
itself.
It is. I mean, I must admit, I am a little frustrated with it. It definitely was overpowered. It's definitely better balanced now. It maybe is a
Yes.
little bit less thematic, not having the hero itself be able to attack. I'm not sure what the best solution to that is, to be honest. But it's yeah. I'm not really
I
sure where I
mean,
was going with that, but
I mean, it's definitely fair to say that if you are surrounding your leader with 4 to 5, maybe even 6, if you are really planning it out well, that the fact that you're getting extra orders and a whole bunch of extra turn economy, that alone is very enough. That's enough. That's very powerful. That's amazing. Um, It's just the units that you're typically using and the pigeonhole you get put in for where to place those units because they have to be surrounding the leader to be able to use that ability to its fullest. Um, they are not. They also aren't typically doing the most damage that they could be doing because they're worried about positioning more to be able to get that second attack off.
True.
So, but that is still to say, getting to use all those attacks twice is definitely more damage than you would get from using your leader's attack once. Um, but if there was like a change that I would very much like to, whisper into your ear, it's specifically just the XP. If launching the offensive were to at least grant the leader a solid chunk of experience, that would make up for it because it feels like my leaders are falling behind where they typically would if I were to focus them on getting the 30 experience they would get otherwise for getting a kill.
That's an interesting idea. That's not something we had considered. Yeah, we could see what people think about that. It seems a reasonable suggestion. I think it's I must, yeah, I love the positioning puzzle of heroes and trying to get everyone around them in exactly the right place to benefit the most from the offensive, and that only gets even more fun when you're routing because, of course, the routing units move as you attack, and then you can move people out of position, and yeah,
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. That's so lovely.
it's it, it's interesting because the way it used to work, obviously you could attack with the hero, then launch an offensive, and that would reduce their cooldown. And that was never the way it was described in game. It was always been will remove the cooldown from adjacent units, never mention your unit, and also the fact that it's one of the very few actions that you can do on cooldown. Whereas I think it's more intuitive to assume that actually you can't launch an offensive on cooldown. It's a cooldown action. But then of course we've got Zealot and enlist next unit, which doesn't work the same. So it's not necessarily 100% argument, but I think that was the thinking of trying to make it a little bit simpler interface wise to work as described. But yeah,
Completely
certainly
respect
room
that.
for tweaking.
The new launch offensive, thematically for me, kind of seems like it's more of a commander ability.
Hmm.
The commander being kind of known as the more passive of the available martial leaders that you can have because it is the XP for idle units. Um, and flanking or the extra flanking damage, don't get me wrong, was used to great effect against me in the scientific fight where he, he did flanked the crap out of me.
Hmm.
But uh, outside of that, it just having a leader who's focused on boosting the units around them as opposed to doing the damage himself, it just doesn't feel very heroic.
Yeah.
Um, it does feel very strategic, so that it feels now a little bit more like a commander ability, whereas it would almost make more sense for the hero to be able to launch an offensive on his own as like a Hannibal ability, like a toggleable pay an amount to be able to attack a second time just
Hmm.
themselves, as opposed to the people around them.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. That is another option.
But yeah, just throwing out ideas.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. And yes, you make good use of the. Speaking of the zealots, you make good use of that at the end there to snipe one of my mounted lancers.
Oh
Was
God, yeah.
must
I
be
I love
satisfying.
the enlist ability. The enlist ability is one of the best changes you guys have made to it. It is so thematic. The like a hero for me is best early to mid game almost, and it gets eclipsed by the power of the zealot in the late game when you have a huge stockpile of both training and civics to be able to
Hmm.
rush units and steal units. It's such a turn of the tide kind of leader. I find it very, very attractive as an end game archetype.
Yeah, zealots are fantastic endgame. And to be honest, I'm making good use of a zealot in the quite early game in my current duel against Alcaraz. I've got a huge training stockpile in a state religion, and yeah, just rushing stuff out right, left, and centre is very handy. I think it's a solid archetype. I think it's one that can be underappreciated. It's not always tempting with their wisdom malice to people not and yeah not obviously not necessarily having the civics to do an enlist in the early game, but even if you have to save up for it and only get one off, it can still turn the tide of a fight very nicely. So
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
Good times.
Yeah, Zealot I think is wonderfully balanced. Tactician I think is wonderfully balanced. I think Commander could use a little bit of love, and that's about it. I think Hero. I'm going to trust in your guys' judgment on where you take that one and where you lead it, because it is because even still, it is still a wrecking ball. Being able to launch two offensives back to back, to have the training stockpiled for that and planned around, is the only reason I was able to punch through your siege line, which
Hmm.
was so incredibly tanky, sitting in their fortress. I was not expecting that. I'm like, oh my, okay, I'm definitely gonna have to remember that one in the future. If you don't have Cav, a onager in a fort, which makes complete thematic sense, is a nightmare to take out.
Yeah, especially if you get it behind a city as well and can surround it with other units, then it just becomes hard to actually even get to. Yeah, I was very keen on taking out your cavalry because they were the one unit that could actually do good damage against them. I took out most of them. One of them managed to actually kill an Anjoutu in the end. Well, before the line collapsed completely, of course. But yeah, cool. Well, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about this game. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
No, everything is well covered.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the game. I thought it was most enjoyable. Hopefully, everyone will enjoy watching it. And until the next time,
Until the next time, see you around, Fluffy.
cheers.